be able to get this done? I mean, that's what we talk about every morning. And we're hoping you are successful in terms of getting health care reform done and tax reform, because that's what is going to happen. I mean, people are going to push back if you don't. Do you really think you can get tax reform done in 2017?
I do. And I think that...
How? Walk us through it.
Well, one thing is you know, when you use these budget rules, and I don't think we're going to get Democrat help, you can't increase the deficit after the budget window. There's nothing saying how long the budget window has to be. You can make the budget window 30 years, so you're doing tax cuts. They're technically temporary. They'd expire at 30 years.
So you don't have
but
to
they're
do
basically
10 years.
You can do longer budget windows. There's a lot of things you can do to try to make it pro-growth. I don't want it to be temporary, but if we don't have the votes to make it permanent...
But the reality is no tax cut's permanent anyway. You look at the 86 Tax Act, 4 years later is being gutted, so get a good tax cut through and worry about the expired date later.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And you make it retroactive on the business side and then on the individual side, particularly with the simplification on the individual side. I mean, the businesses is the rates have got to come down because we're not competitive. And I think you'll see capital start to respond to that if we can put that in place sometime this year.
What's the corporate tax rate you want to see, 25%?
I'd like to see 15%. I mean, I think we're in a competitive environment internationally. I want to be attracting capital.
Well, the president said 15%. You think you could really get...
I don't know if we'll end up getting there, but that should be our target.
What would stop you? I mean, other than crazy CBO rules, which mean nothing in the real world.
Yeah, why not just take it to 15%?
Just do it.
You're right. If you're not worried about CBO, then you don't have to have a border adjustment tax or some of these things that could cause us to lose a lot of votes on it.
It's good for the economy. Do it.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think that if we're going into next year, people start to see the growth rate actually get up above 3%, you will end up getting tax revenue out of that because if you're having more capital come here. So I think it would be a win-win. And, we have to do it this year.
Any chance on the corporate side of having the pass-through for small businesses go to 15 or 20%?
There's a chance. I think the issue with that is going to be, you know, if I'm a professional, I have an LLC, and then I hire people on my staff, and they're paying individual income, am I going to get all of that as a pass-through? Mnuchin has said, well, we don't want them to be able to do it. But then once you start getting those details, it does get complicated.
People game the system.
So on the one hand, I don't want my small business pass-through guys to pay 39 or 35.
Sounds like we should just have a 15% flat tax.
There you go.
Hello. Yeah, that's what you said years ago. Look, I got to get to this unmasking story, but I want to ask one more question on the tax reform because it's so important.
No, I know.
What are the deductions in terms of the fight going on right now? What is going to be the big debate in terms of the deductions that come out of a tax reform package?
So on the business side, I think it's the business interest. A lot of the real estate folks don't like that's being pared back for the deductibility. On the individual side, charitable mortgage interests will not be touched effectively. They're going to increase the standard deduction, so a lot of middle-class taxpayers won't even need the mortgage interest deduction, but it'll still be there. And then the state and local tax deduction. The blue states really get subsidized by the federal taxpayer because they can raise taxes, and then the sting is taking out of that to a certain extent by being able to deduct it. I think that's good policy to get rid of that, but there's going to be blue state Republicans who look at that and say, hey, we're not sure we want to go there.
There's the debate. Real quick, with the breaking news right now, the president is just tweeting this. The big story is the unmasking and surveillance of people that took place during the Obama administration. The House Intelligence Committee issuing 7 subpoenas, 3 of which were served to the FBI, CIA, and NSA, demanding documents connected to the Obama administration's unmasking. Now, these subpoenas are asking for documents, Congressman, naming Obama National Security Advisor Susan Rice, former CIA Director John Brennan, former U.S. Ambassador Samantha Power. What's the House Intel Committee looking for here?
So there may be reasons why a Brennan, who's CIA Director, would need to unmask. It's harder for me to see Susan Rice, and it is very hard for me to see Samantha Power. She was the UN ambassador. Why would she need to be unmasking anybody's identities? What she is, though, is she is an Obama loyalist. She was with him in his Senate office. She came to the administration. And so when you start seeing the Susan Rices and the Samantha Powers involved in unmasking, to me, that at least raises the inference that this was done more for political purposes than for national security purposes. And of all the stuff you hear about, all the smoke about Russia, all this, we know there were crimes committed with how this information was used. I mean, that is without question. We've got to get to the bottom of how. With a lot of the Russia stuff, no one's even been able to identify an actual crime that's been committed with the Trump campaign thus far.
I just said that a minute ago. So are you focused on the unmasking? Is that where the subpoenas will come?
There's also the other aspect of it, but the subpoenas, all those 3 subpoenas, that is focused on the unmasking.
Congressman, good to see you.
Good to see you.
Thank you so much. Congressman Ron DeSantis will be right back.